I'm J.R. Church. Welcome to today's webcast. I want to talk to you again today about the Psalms, this time Psalm 85. Listen to verse 1. Lord, thou hast been favorable unto thy land. Thou hast brought back the captivity of Jacob. Well, in January 1985, the world learned about Operation Moses. There had been thousands, tens of thousands of Jews, black Jews from Ethiopia that had escaped over the mountains of Abyssinia into Sudan. And they were there in refugee camps in squalor. And Israel negotiated to have those people rescued. They called it Operation Moses. I like that. And listen to what I wrote in my book, Hidden Prophecies in the Psalms, on Psalm 85. January of 1985, the world learned about Operation Moses. Israel had been airlifting Ethiopian Jews from refugee camps in Sudan. Over 10,000 black Jews, the Falashas, had escaped persecution under Ethiopia's communist regime. They had journeyed over the mountainous border into Sudan. Though Sudan is an Arab country and had no official relations with Israel, certain government personnel had permitted European airliners hired by Israel to rescue the refugees. Living conditions in the camps were deplorable. Several hundreds of the Falashas, perhaps thousands, had died for lack of food and proper medical attention. Most, however, had managed to survive and were rescued. It is quite remarkable that the first verse of Psalm 85 would allude to the captivity of Jacob returning to the Promised Land. Trans-European Airways, a Brussels-based charter airline, made 35 flights from November 1984 to January 1985. Airlifting black Jews out of the refugee camps in the Sudan. The flights were canceled after Israeli officials confirmed newspaper reports that a rescue mission was underway. Embarrassed Sudanese government officials halted the flights once the news leaked out. Their Arab neighbors were furious that Sudan would help. Some 7,000 Falashas remained stranded in refugee camps in Sudan. Perhaps as many as 10,000 were still in Ethiopia. Prime Minister Perez vowed, quote, "We shall not rest until all our brothers and sisters from Ethiopia come safely back home." And by the way, our president, George Herbert Walker Bush, got permission for our CIA to send U.S. planes in and rescue the rest of those Ethiopian Jews. Incredible. It's 1985 and Psalm 85. Now listen to verse 9. Surely his salvation is nigh them that fear him, that glory may dwell in our land. The glory of the Shekinah would return someday and will return someday to Israel. How could it return? When the Ark of the Covenant is returned to that mountaintop and set up in a temple or tabernacle of sorts. Yes, when the Jews restore temple worship, the Ark of the Covenant will be placed in the Holy of Holies, and, say the rabbis, the glory will return. Now, why is this important to the Ethiopian Jews? Because Ethiopian history says that the Ark of the Covenant is kept in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Axum, Ethiopia. Now, I cannot tell you if it's still there or if it's in Israel by now. But the return of the black Jews of Ethiopia were essential to the return of the Ark of the Covenant and eventually the glory of God. It is said that Moses went there to Ethiopia and married the king's daughter. Her name was Tharbis. You can find this in the writings of the first century historian Flavius Josephus. And Numbers chapter 12, verse 1 says that Moses had married a black woman from Ethiopia. And, of course, that means then that children had come from that union. And eventually, when the Queen of Sheba came up to see King Solomon, who, by the way, whose mother was Bathsheba, Beth meaning the house of Sheba. So it's entirely possible that Solomon's mother was black. a black Jew from Ethiopia. It's possible that the Queen of Sheba, who came up and married Solomon, and they had a son named Menelik who went back home to continue the royal lineage in Ethiopia, was also a black Jew of Ethiopia. And so when the black Jews went back home, I think it was a fulfillment of Isaiah chapter 18. And I believe that as a result, the Ark of the Covenant either has been or will be returned to Israel, maybe soon. So, Psalm 85, 1985, a key ingredient to the return of the glory to Israel. I'd like for you to help us with our television studio. If you notice now we have the 16 by 9. We still have some recorders that we need to buy. And we also need to buy one of those big booms for the third camera that raise it up way high and down low so that we can have some, make our program more interesting. And anyway, we need some help. If you can help us during this Christmas season with an offering of any amount, whatever it is, however much the Lord lays on your heart, if it's $10 or $1,000, it's okay, whatever you want. I want you to ask for the prophetic Psalms on DVD. I'd be glad to send it to you. It's our way of saying thank you for helping us to populate our studio with the equipment we need, okay? So, call today, will you? That's 1-800-475-1111. That's an awful hard number to remember, especially when you're 70. So anyway, call us, will you? And get the DVD, The Prophetic Psalms. God bless you. Have a great week, will you? We'll see you again tomorrow with our analysis of the news.